Hey guys, and welcome back. In our last video, we changed the score screen to show to the user the best score and the current score. But the issue is, if you manage to dodge all the obstacles in the story, you end up flying around endlessly without facing any challenge or having any way to quit the game, which is kind of annoying. So during this video, we'll enhance our game to keep generating story until the game is over. I will start by creating a new class called StoryQueue. Most of the work will be to move the source code from the story handler to the StoryQueue. On top of the functionalities provided by a regular queue, the StoryQueue will be able to populate itself when needed. I will move the steps queue to the StoryQueue. The story queue will have one method called reset, which will basically clean up the steps and populate with the first chunk of steps. The story handler will now have a story queue as a member variable. I'll copy the entire story to the story queue, but we'll split it in a bit. The story handler will be really simplified. When the game starts, all we have to do is to call the reset method of the story queue, and the queue will handle everything. When we try to spawn, we'll ask the story queue whether we have any story available or not. Because of this, the time is needed to be available inside the story queue, so let's move it there. Of course, we'll need an update interface and call it during the update routine. Now, the time is stored internally in the queue, so we can just ask the queue to calculate the delta t for us. It's not the nicest solution, but it will do the job. However, overall, the source code looks much better now. We will do the story population asynchronously. This means we won't be holding the main thread while we populate, but we have to make sure the population run only once. For this, we will use the population ongoing member variable. What I will do is I will split the existing story into story chunks called chapters. Each chunk will contain 5 seconds of the existing story. So guys, this is your playground. Here, you can do whatever you want. To be fair, before publishing the game, I'll rework the story entirely to ensure it is catchy and challenging. So now the story has been split into sub-chapters, and based on the current chapter, we will populate the queue. There are multiple benefits on doing it in this way, such as you don't hold the entire story in the memory, your story doesn't have to have a fixed length, and even better, you can randomly spam a certain chapter. Last part will be the final story, which will be an infinite chapter. The start time of this chapter will be calculated based on the last entity in the queue. I will round its spamming time and add a 1-second gap, and then I will use this value as a starting point for our infinite story. I already had something prepared, but as you can see, each step in our story, it's based on the calculated starting time. I forgot to initialize the populate ongoing variable. The pop method is where all the magic happens. The first thing we do, we'll store in a local variable the first element in the queue and remove the first element. Then we will check how many items are left in the queue. If there are less than 10 items in the queue, we'll spam a new chapter. But this is just a magical number and you can use whatever value you want. What is very important is to always ensure there are some items in the queue. And at the end, we'll just return the step. When we start populating, we'll set the populate ongoing to true. And once we finish, we have to set it to false, otherwise only one chapter will be spammed. Let's restart the game and check our emulator. So far so good, nothing changed. This is the part where the story used to be over and we used to fly endlessly, but this is not the case anymore. Now, I know the same story gets spammed over and over, but this is not relevant because this is not our final story. To be honest, what I will do is I'll create multiple chapters such as the boxes part and spam them randomly. And this way you always get an original story. Let me know what you think about the game so far in the comment section. If you really want to see Chester flying to the Google store, please hit the like button to turn it blue. Thanks a lot for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers!